I'm Theron Ramacharaka. There exists a strong and instructive literary analogy for us among the birth and life of a stage or film character on the one hand, and on the other hand, real life, the false ego structure, and the true selfhood. The strength of this literary analogy rests upon its reflecting in language the actual fact of the matter, the true metaphysical analogy involved, and its instructiveness lies in the facts that, first, through an examination of certain aspects of the birth and life of a stage or film character and the actor's relation to them, through those we can peer into corresponding affairs having to do with real life, the false ego structure, and the true selfhood. And second, its instructiveness manifests in our applying what we discover through this examination toward our self-evolvement. So let's take a look at some relevant aspects of an actor and his or her stage or film character. Such a character or role is born of two parents, those being, one, the actor himself and his life experience, and two, the given current circumstances, these latter being the script, the set, and the blocking or action directions. The actor applies the magical what if, which refers to the other parent, the given circumstances. That is, he asks, what if I were in these circumstances? How would I feel? What would I think? What would be my objectives? And what would be my obstacles to their attainment? What would be my running inner dialogue? My mental images? What life events might have led up to these given circumstances? And given all of these affairs, in what manners might I now go about doing things? As I have suggested, by way of the actor's training and technique, his character's mental life arises from all of the clues given in the circumstances on the one hand, and from the actor's own mental life and experience on the other hand. The character's desires, objectives and obstacles, and cognitive and emotional mental objects, including his all-important ongoing mental dialogue and even mental images, all come to life in this way. In the end, the character's actions and utterances are the natural outcomes of the circumstances. A significant portion of the character's development occurs via relations with the other characters in the production, during rehearsal or otherwise, and the actor's training and technique makes him or her able to pull it all off, starting with his initial reading of the script and terminating in his final performance. A possible point of interest to you here is that the large portion of a well-written script is more easy for a good actor to learn than many people would think. For the script involves the inevitable result of the actor being in the given circumstances, which include the script itself. The magical what if comes to be the is now. The actor actually comes to find the part in himself, and himself in the part. Two ways of saying the same thing, almost. The part comes from the actor's real life, and so his real life is now in the part. But in circumstances that, although actually happening in the production, were separate from his life outside of the production. And of course, the part is under his total control. In this way, in the performance, the actor has real emotions, real inner dialogue and mental images, genuine actions, meant words, and objectives and obstacles that exist as actual parts of the life of that aspect of the actor that goes into the character. And the actor finds the character in himself, and in turn finds himself to exist in the character. The character has its own life, so to speak, including a full life history, and inner mental objects or emotions and thoughts, about most of which an audience does not know, but might be able to somewhat determine. And this all results in the believability of a good actor's character from the audience's point of view. It also makes the character a real experience for the actor. And while the actor can, to a degree, experience life vicariously through his played role. He also, still realizes the character to be just what it is, a temporary fabrication under his control. Now, what is the analogy? What does all of this have to do with real life and, say, the false ego and the true selfhood? Well, as we have seen, the actor builds many roles during his career, develops many characters, he plays many parts. But throughout his life, with they in him, so to speak, and with he literally in them, he remains the same actor all the while. He remains the same person, relatively speaking. This is something that he will acutely note at some point, if not right from the start. But in the least, he never forgets that his characters are temporary fabrications. That is, if he is mentally stable with respect to his art. So on the analogical side of affairs, if we look at the various parts that we play in just this life, with the actor in mind, we notice that some part of us is playing them. We can even notice this every day. We go to work and to play certain roles there, and then come home and play other ones. Father, mother, husband, wife, neighbor, friend, or at some point, teacher with respect to one person and a student to another, and so on. We can notice this even in a single day's affairs. That is, especially if we would call the other side of the analogy, that having to do with the actor. This can give us a unique point of view from which to further grasp the true self versus the false ego structure. For in arriving at this point of view, we take a step back, so to speak, and view a bigger picture. A child's play acting among friends or alone is like rehearsal for adult life. Too bad that we adults forget that we too are playing roles. The actor and character relationship that I have laid out here provides us an excellent model for understanding the relationship among the true self and the parts played in this life, such that, stated as a formal analogy, we have this. Actor is to characters as true self is to roles played in this life or life cycles. Both sides of the analogy refer to the same principles at work. They just manifesting at different levels of occurrence. In fact, the Stanislavski and natural acting method, theories, training, and practices are based on real life. So already here, we can glean from what we have to this point set forth something of practical value for us, a very literal trick to a glimpse of true selfhood actualization in real life is to remember that we are playing roles. Our personalities, our interactions, our emotions, and our inner mental objects and our behaviors are roles or characters, parts of a fabricated false ego structure. Our roles emerge from our true selves and our given circumstances, and so our true selves are in the circumstances. In our roles are part of our false self or false ego structures. The big difference for us to note well here is that while the actor does not forget that he has contrived his temporary character, and that his real life character is the controlling and permanent entity integrally connected with his temporary characters in a performance, we, so to speak, forget our true selves and literally get lost in our roles. The concept of finding our roles in ourselves and ourselves in the roles becomes foreign to us. This is one way to describe the false ego phenomenon. We, like some few mentally unstable actors who forget that their characters are fabrications and who are thus called insane, psychotic, we forget that we are the masters of our roles and that our roles are born of our true self and of our given circumstances. We confuse these roles and our techniques to pull it all off with our true natures. We believe that the role is the real thing. It is a real role, yes, but it is not the true self. But then, just like the healthy actor finds himself in the part and finds the part in himself, while also knowing that the role is a temporary fabrication and that he is in control of it, so the healthy, sane person analogously can do, or does, in real life. But now consider for a moment an actor who has established a true selfhood in his own real life. Well, he then finds himself in a position to know that he is playing roles within a larger scope of playing roles. Therefore, if he views coming to true selfhood as a process of, say, waking up, well then he knows through experience that this waking up involves many phases. If he views it as a process of realization or actualization, he knows that said realization or actualization occurs in many steps. If he views it in terms of remembering or uncovering, he knows that instantiating this remembering or uncovering involves many layers. And if he views the process as climbing the ladder of sanity, he knows that this ladder has many rungs. I have said that a very literal trick to a glimpse of true selfhood actualization in real life is to remember that we are playing roles. Of course, there is more to it all, though, if we will move beyond this glimpse. A lot has gone into our, so to speak, forgetting, into the fabrication of false ego and our identification with it, and into all the rest. And just like the actor uses skilled technique in creating a character, we must use skilled technique in actualizing true selfhood and true self-mastery. Such technique involves numerous angles toward reverse engineering the process that has gone into the forgetting and its attendant phenomena. I have devoted considerable energy to providing such methods here in my YouTube channel. But what would be far more effective in this direction would be if we could remember all of our past lives, or even just an entire life cycle, even just one. Now, whether we forget the majority of a life cycle or forget all of our past ones is a matter of current karmic necessity, or a matter of we got talked into this forgetting by some devious entities before birth, or for some other reason, I don't know for sure. But the point is, if we could remember, well then we would easily conclude that some part of us has gone through it all and remained constant throughout. Now, some will say that all that remains at the peak of a life cycle is a chain of cause and effect, and that's it. And that, that after everything is stripped away at the end of a life cycle opposite the physical incarnation part, what draws back together the materials for a new incarnation is simply our causal record, which itself perhaps is locked into some cosmic archive of our past mental images. Well, many theories have arisen concerning this, and are not important here. But I would want to ask you concerning this specific theory, which is among the most minimalizing about the notion of what transmigrates, or what remains the same throughout life cycles. In the phrase, our causal record, that I just used, or your causal record, perhaps, what is the idea of our, or your, doing there? There must be some monad, or individualized core of being, with which this causal record is associated, or at least some latent or potential something along that line. Something that does not change the whole while. And just like, if we think of the actor, with respect to our roles in this life or even just in this day, and can thereby glimpse our unchanging core of being. Just in that same manner, we could do so much more. We could much the more attain awareness of this something, our true self, if we could recall all of our life cycles and the personalities, false egos, etc., associated with them. But it being the case that we do not have this recall, perhaps the analogy of the actor and his character's roles or parts, whatever we want to call them, helps us just a little to know ourselves a bit more clearly, even as things currently stand. And by the way, I am not saying that all actors think this far into the matter, but I would say that any actor who knows much about true self versus false ego or false self will have thought into it this far, for the parallels are striking, and rightly so. For such acting method is indeed a picture of real life, and is grounded in real life affairs, such as objectives, obstacles, inner objects, and in what-ifs brought to bear. Now, too bad that many good actors fall into step with the entertainment industry's hijacking of their roles, such that their roles induce into others' perceptions skewed views of self and of reality, in the same manner that much of music is hijacked toward that same end. In real life, we must not only establish true selfhood, but also play our parts in the most ethical manner that we can, given our circumstances, and do our best to avoid falling into step with skewed perceptions or projections of the same. In closing, I must lay out an important point. I have implied that theatrical acting serves as a model of real life, but even this real life is not the real thing. Real life dawns upon us slowly as we move toward a true selfhood and its rooting in the one and only true reality, the infinite and immutable absolute beyond, behind, and discreetly within all. Life indeed is a drama of sorts, a play or movie involving sets, roles, and actions, all cast upon the plastic stage or screen of consciousness. Row, row your boat gently down the stream, merrily, merrily, for life is but a very real dream. I am Theron Ramacharaka. Be well.